So you mentioned, if eventually AI kind of systematically destroys everything, right? We see this creative destruction, and in the 2030s, as you've said, there will be a graveyard for the Fortune 500. What does the economic landscape look after that? Also, when no one really has to work, as you say, which businesses or what type of people will thrive in this era? I mean, eventually with AI, even today, right, we can make a screenshot of Airbnb and say to Replit or whatever coding agent, build me an Airbnb. Then obviously you don't have the distribution, the mode they have, etc. But just any idea conceptually can be copied or reverse engineered the moment it comes out or anyone presents it to the world, right? So there's this infinite scaling and copying. Yeah, what does that look like? Where does the economic activity come from? Is that then rapid abundance, perhaps, because we can just copy infinitely, or how can people think about that?
Well, here's the first thing. So I'm a big riddle with inside a riddle person. And so I think my beliefs on what'll happen to the Fortune 500 companies, it's a statement on two levels. Number one, it's a bearish dollar statement from a macro perspective, and I'll get into the reasons why. But the second thing is the Fortune 500 companies means I believe big companies are going to be at risk. It doesn't mean I don't think there'll be any companies. It means I think all big companies cannot survive. And the reason is it falls into the same thing with the dollar. So let me go back and explain to people my logic behind why the dollar in this whole American exceptionalism story has been overblown. The dollar has rallied significantly around the rest of the world, and every economist and every person who I have very little respect for as being intelligent on these fronts gives you the reasons why. They give you all these things they've learned in textbooks and everything else. But in all those textbooks, there was no internet. In all those textbooks, there was no Silicon Valley. In all those textbooks, there was not this one little tiny place in Northern California, which basically created the internet and ended up sucking in every investment dollar for basically the next 40 years, 35 years. You could not survive as a pension fund CIO. You could not survive as a sovereign fund CIO. You could not survive as a hedge fund manager. You couldn't survive anything unless you invested in the Silicon Valley companies. That has nothing to do necessarily with America. That doesn't have to do with American exceptionalism. If it did, most of the people running the companies would not be from other countries, but they are. So this is not just a U.S. story. I think the United States creates an environment where this kind of creativity is conducive to people coming to, and I think that was American exceptionalism. But what has changed now is that moat that the United States had was on coding. You had to come and take classes at Stanford to learn how to code to be able to build those companies and build startups. What is going to happen over the course of the next decade, which will disrupt the Fortune 500 companies, is that anyone can code now that can speak any language. It doesn't even have to be English. You speak into your phone and say, build me an app in whatever language you have, and it immediately converts that into the code necessary to build an app. So the competition just was democratized, and that means the dollar will weaken over time. Not because of anything the United States has done, not because of Donald Trump, not because of any of the policies that have gone on, because there's the democracy. There'll be other people that come in. This is about the competition that'll come. And the people that are the companies that are going to lose the most are the bigger companies, because they have the worst thing you can have with AI is people.
A lot of people. Yeah.
Exactly. And startups and entrepreneurs can build businesses without any people. I have my own business. I have no employees except for myself. I like running it that way. I'm incredibly happy. I don't have to manage people. I don't have to give them a bonus at the end of the year. I don't have to listen to their whining. I've done that since in my 20s. Now what I'm used to is talking to AI and getting something that'll work all the time. And I'm not joking when I say this, Bram. Before we got on here, I was having ChatGPT run a deep research report for me on a theme that I have with Inside the Macro World that I think is worth a lot of money. I will be sharing it on my video, and I will be selling it to people who want to get ideas on why oil prices and gas prices are going to be the last thing to run up as part of this AI demand, and how this is different than history. I can do that now with the code that comes from AI, and that means I can compete with every Morgan Stanley person, every Goldman Sachs person, And you couldn't do that a decade ago. So that's why I think the Fortune 500 companies will gradually come under attack. And that's why when Michael Saylor talks about Bitcoin as being part of the new capital structure, people need to think about there will be a lot of small businesses that will never go public. The public markets will change. They will be replaced with tokenization. Everything will be on the chain and everything will be involving crypto. And that means that we're transitioning from a world where there were public companies that dominated to smaller entrepreneurial businesses.